They say the worst day of your life can also be the best thing that ever happened to you. I didn't believe that when I found out my husband of 20 years was leaving me for a woman half my age. I didn't believe it when he told me she was pregnant with his child. And I certainly didn't believe it when I was standing in a divorce lawyer's office, watching my entire life fall apart. But here's what I learned: sometimes the person who breaks your heart is actually setting you free. My name is Patricia Williams. I'm 71 years old now, and I'm telling you this story because I think someone out there might need to hear it. Someone who's been betrayed, someone whose world has crumbled. I want you to know that you can survive, you can even thrive. But this isn't just a story about survival. This is about revenge, unexpected twists, and truths I never saw coming. It was the fall of 1995. I was 44 years old, living in a nice three-bedroom house in the suburbs of Chicago. My husband, Thomas Williams, was a department manager at a mid-sized construction company. Our oldest daughter, Emily, was a sophomore in college. Our son, Daniel, was a freshman in high school. We were your typical middle-class family. Nothing fancy, nothing lacking. I thought that was happiness. I really did. Thomas and I had been married for 20 years. 20 long years. During that time, we'd laughed together, cried together. There were times when money was tight, times when we argued about his mother, times when we disagreed about the kids. But that's marriage, isn't it? You work through it together. That particular day started like any other. I woke up at 6 in the morning and made breakfast for everyone. Thomas sat at the kitchen table reading the newspaper, drinking his coffee. Emily was talking about some school project. Daniel was rubbing his sleepy eyes at the breakfast table. "Honey, will you be home early tonight?" I asked. Thomas didn't look up from his newspaper. "No, I'll be late." "Got a dinner meeting." "Another one? That's the third time this week." "Work's been busy." "Can't help it." His voice had an edge to it. I didn't push further. You learn in a long marriage where the lines are, what questions to avoid. After everyone left for work and school, the house fell silent. I did the dishes, cleaned, started the laundry. The same routine day after day. Boring, but peaceful. Around 11 o'clock, I headed out to the grocery store. It was about a 10-minute walk from our house. As I was browsing the produce section, someone called my name. "Patricia!" I turned around. It was Jennifer, a college friend I hadn't seen in about 10 years. We'd been close in school, but after graduation, marriage and kids, we'd lost touch. "Oh my God, Jennifer, it's been forever." "I know. Patricia, you look great." We hugged, genuinely happy to see each other. Jennifer still had that bright energy she'd had in college. Always smiling, always positive. "You have time for coffee?" she asked. "Sure. I'd love to catch up." We walked to a small cafe near the market. It was called the Golden Years Coffee House, an old brick building with vintage decor inside. We ordered chamomile tea and sat down across from each other. "So how have you been?" "You're married, right?" Jennifer asked. "Yeah, 20 years now." "Wow, you married young. How old were you?" 24. The kids are practically grown now. Emily's in college, Daniel's in high school. "That's amazing." "I got married late, so—" "My kids are still in elementary school." Jennifer laughed. We spent the next hour catching up, talking about the old days, who got married, who got divorced, who made it big, who lost everything. It felt good to laugh and talk like this again. Then, about an hour in, Jennifer's expression changed. She looked serious, uncomfortable. "Patricia," she said carefully. "Yeah? I need to tell you something." Her voice had become grave. I could tell this wasn't going to be good news. What is it? Is something wrong? Jennifer hesitated, then spoke slowly. Last Friday night, my husband and I went to this restaurant near downtown. It was supposed to be nice, for our anniversary. Okay. I saw Thomas there. My heart dropped, but I forced a smile. Oh, he must have been at a work dinner. Jennifer shook her head. Her expression was heavy. Patricia, it wasn't a work dinner. He was with a woman. Just the two of them. And it didn't look like a colleague situation. My chest tightened. The teacup in my hand started shaking. What do you mean? Patricia, I'm sorry. I went back and forth about whether to tell you. But if it were me, I'd want to know. And I think not knowing is worse than knowing. Jennifer reached across the table and took my hand. They were holding hands. The atmosphere between them was intimate. They were looking into each other's eyes, laughing. At one point, she fed him something from her fork. My husband saw him too. I asked to make sure I wasn't seeing things, and he confirmed it was definitely Thomas. My mind went blank. Thomas? My husband? With another woman? What did she look like? My voice was shaking. Jennifer looked apologetic. Young, maybe early 30s, possibly late 20s. Long straight hair, tall. Honestly, she was pretty, wearing a lot of makeup and a red dress. Very flashy style. Are you absolutely sure it was my husband? Yes. I looked 2, 3 times. It was definitely Thomas. And Patricia, I'm sorry, but my husband saw him too. My husband met Thomas a few times. He was at our wedding. Jennifer's husband knew Thomas. They'd met on several occasions. Do you know who she is? I don't know her. But I heard Thomas call her Miranda. I think that's her name. And Patricia, Jennifer continued, her voice even more apologetic. Thomas put a ring on her finger. A small ring. But it looked like a couple's ring. Miranda. That name echoed in my head. And a ring. I left the cafe in a daze. I hadn't even bought groceries. I just walked home, my mind racing. That 10-minute walk felt like an hour. When I got home, I collapsed on the couch. I couldn't believe it. Thomas? The man I'd spent 20 years with? The father of my children? No, I whispered to myself. Jennifer must have been mistaken. Or maybe she really was just a coworker. These days, people are friendly with female colleagues at work. Holding hands could just be a joke. Feeding each other could be playful. But deep down, something gnawed at me. I started remembering things. Little things that hadn't seemed important before. The frequent late nights. Thomas had been having work dinners 3, 4 times a week. It used to be once or twice a month. But starting around January this year, it had increased dramatically. Late arrivals home. He'd been coming home at 11, midnight, sometimes even 2 in the morning. When I'd ask, why so late, he'd say, second round, third round with clients. He did smell like alcohol, but something felt off. The phone obsession. Thomas used to leave his cell phone on the kitchen counter. But lately, he always had it with him, even when he went to the bathroom. One day I'd asked, why do you take your phone to the bathroom? He'd answered, just a habit. The lack of eye contact. When we talked, he'd look away or at the TV. When I'd say, honey, look at me, he'd respond, what? I'm tired. Our intimate life had dwindled. Once a month now, maybe. It used to be once or twice a week. When I'd initiate, he'd say, I'm tired. Next time. And the perfume. One day, I'd noticed a strange perfume smell on his suit jacket. Not the cologne I'd bought him. It was sweet and heavy. When I asked about it, he said a junior colleague had given it to him as a gift. A guy receiving perfume as a gift? I'd asked. That's how it is these days at the office, he'd replied. No. No, I'm just being paranoid. Thomas wouldn't do that. We've been together for 20 years. He's the father of our children. He wouldn't cheat. But the doubt kept growing. Jennifer's words kept circling in my mind. Holding hands, feeding each other, the ring. If you're finding this story compelling, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Your support helps us share more important stories like this one. Now, let's continue with what happened next. That evening, when Thomas came home, I watched him like I'd never watched him before. Every movement, every word, every expression. He walked in around 11:30. The smell of alcohol hit me first, but underneath it, there was something else. That sweet, heavy perfume, the same one I'd smelled before. "You're home," I said, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. "Yeah, long night." He didn't look at me. He never looked at me anymore. "How was the dinner meeting?" "Fine." "The usual." He was already heading toward the bedroom. "Thomas." "What?" His tone was sharp, irritated. "Who were you really with tonight?" He froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. That moment of panic that flashed across his face before he turned around. "What kind of question is that? I told you." "Work dinner." Was Miranda there? The color drained from his face. His mouth opened slightly. His eyes went wide. I'd never seen Thomas look scared before, but in that moment, he looked terrified. "I don't know what you're talking about." His voice was shaking. "Don't lie to me," I was shouting now. I'd never shouted at Thomas in 20 years of marriage, but I couldn't hold it back anymore. "I know about her. Someone saw you two together, holding hands, being intimate. You gave her a ring, Thomas, a ring!" He stood there frozen, silent. His briefcase slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a loud thud. "How long?" My voice cracked. "How long have you been sleeping with her?" He looked at the floor. His shoulders sagged. "A year," he whispered. "A year. 12 months. 365 days of lies. Of him coming home and kissing my cheek. Of him sitting at our dinner table with our children. Of him sleeping next to me in our bed. All while he was with her." "I want to see your phone," I said. "Patricia." "Now." He hesitated, then slowly pulled his phone from his pocket. His hands were shaking as he handed it to me. I grabbed it and tried to open it. "Password protected." "Of course." "What's the code?" "Patricia, please." "What's the code?" 9274. I punched in the numbers. The phone unlocked. And there it was. Everything I didn't want to see but needed to know. Text messages from Miranda. Hundreds of them. "Baby, I miss you so much. When can I see you again? I love you more than anything. I can't wait until we can be together for real." I scrolled back further. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Photos of them together. At restaurants. At hotels. In bed. One message from 3 weeks ago made my blood run cold. The test came back positive. "I'm pregnant." "We're going to have a baby." The phone slipped from my hands and clattered onto the hardwood floor. "She's pregnant?" My voice didn't sound like my own. It was hollow, distant. Thomas's face crumpled. "Patricia, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen." "You didn't mean for this to happen? You accidentally spent a year sleeping with another woman? You accidentally got her pregnant?" "I love her." His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, but I love her." Those words hit me like a physical blow. I actually staggered backward and had to grab the wall to steady myself. What about me? What about Emily? What about Daniel? The kids are almost grown. Emily's in college. Daniel will be graduating soon. They don't need me anymore. They don't need you? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They don't need you. They're your children. Patricia, I've been unhappy for years. I've been going through the motions. Miranda makes me feel alive again. She makes me happy. And I don't? No, he finally said. You don't. Not anymore. I'm sorry, but the love is gone. It's been gone for a long time. I felt like the floor had opened up beneath me. 20 years. 2 children. A lifetime of memories. And he was telling me the love was gone? When? I asked. When did you stop loving me? He shook his head. I don't know. It was gradual. We just became roommates. People living in the same house. I didn't even realize it until I met Miranda. So you want a divorce? It wasn't a question. I already knew the answer. Yes. He looked me in the eye for the first time. I want to marry Miranda. I want to be there for our baby. I want to start over. Get out! What? Get out of my house. Patricia, get out! I screamed it so loudly that my throat hurt. Get out right now. Go to your pregnant mistress. Go start your new life. Just get the hell out of my sight. Thomas stood there for a moment, looking lost. Then he nodded slowly. He went to the bedroom, and I heard him opening drawers, packing clothes. I stood in the living room, shaking. I couldn't cry. The tears wouldn't come. I felt numb, empty. 20 minutes later, Thomas came out with 2 suitcases. He paused at the door. I'll have a lawyer contact you about the divorce. I didn't respond. I didn't even look at him. Patricia, I really am sorry. The door closed behind him. And just like that, 20 years of marriage ended. I don't know how long I stood there. An hour? 2 hours? The house was so quiet, so empty. Finally, around 2 in the morning, I collapsed on the couch. And that's when the tears came. Huge, gasping sobs that shook my entire body. I cried until there were no tears left, until my eyes were swollen and my throat was raw. The next morning, I had to tell the kids. Emily came home from college for the weekend. Daniel was already at the breakfast table when I called them both into the living room. Mom, what's wrong? Emily's face was full of concern. Where's Dad? I took a deep breath. Your father has left. He's been having an affair. We're getting divorced. Daniel's face went pale. Emily's mouth fell open. What? Emily's voice was barely a whisper. He's been seeing another woman for a year. She's pregnant. He wants to marry her. No. Emily was shaking her head. No, that can't be true. Dad wouldn't. It's true, sweetie. I'm so sorry. Emily burst into tears. Daniel just sat there, staring at nothing, his face blank with shock. I pulled them both into my arms. We sat there on the couch, the 3 of us, crying together. Our family was broken, and nothing would ever be the same again. That night, after the kids had gone to their rooms, I sat alone in the dark living room. I thought about everything. The good years, the bad years, the moment I realized I'd married the wrong man. Or maybe he'd been the right man once, and he'd just changed. I thought about Miranda, this young woman carrying my husband's child. Did she know about me? About Emily and Daniel? Did she care? And I thought about myself, 44 years old, no career, no income, 2 kids to raise. What was I going to do? But then something shifted inside me, a spark of anger, of defiance. No, I wasn't going to fall apart. I wasn't going to let Thomas destroy me. I was going to survive this, whatever it took. The divorce took 3 months. 3 months of lawyers, paperwork, and negotiations. 3 months of facing the man I'd loved for 20 years across a conference table, dividing up our life like it was a business transaction. Thomas's lawyer was expensive, slick, the kind of man who wore $1,000 suits and smiled like a shark. My lawyer was kind but overworked, handling too many cases for too little money. The first meeting was the worst. We sat in a sterile conference room with fluorescent lights that made everyone look gray and sickly. Thomas wouldn't look at me. He kept his eyes on the table, on the papers, anywhere but my face. My client is prepared to offer $500,000 as a settlement, Thomas's lawyer said, sliding a document across the table. The house goes to Mrs. Williams. Full custody of the minor child, Daniel, goes to Mrs. Williams. My client will pay $2,000 per month in child support until Daniel turns 18. $2,000 a month! For a construction company department manager who made over $150,000 a year, it was insulting. My lawyer looked at the papers, then at me. I could see the apology in his eyes. We both knew we couldn't fight for more. Thomas had the better lawyer. The more money, and I just wanted it over. We accept, I heard myself say. Patricia, my lawyer started. I accept. I just want this done. Thomas's lawyer smiled. That shark smile. Excellent. We'll draw up the final papers. As we were leaving, Thomas finally spoke to me. Patricia, wait. I turned. This was the first time he'd addressed me directly in weeks. I know this is hard, but thank you for not dragging this out, for thinking about the kids. I looked at him, really looked at him, the man I'd given 20 years of my life to, the father of my children, and I felt nothing. The love was gone. The hate was gone. There was just emptiness. I'm not doing this for you, Thomas. I'm doing it for me. I want you out of my life as completely as possible. Something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe, or pain. But I didn't care anymore. The divorce was finalized on a rainy Tuesday in February 1996. I signed the papers in the lawyer's office. Just like that, 20 years of marriage ended with a signature and a stamp. I walked out of that office a divorced woman, 44 years old, single, scared, but also strangely free. The money from the settlement sat in my bank account. $500,000. It seemed like a lot, but I knew it wouldn't last forever. I had to do something. I needed a job. But what could I do? I'd been a housewife for 20 years. I had a college degree, but it was in English literature, not exactly in high demand. And most employers didn't want to hire a 44-year-old woman with no recent work experience. I applied everywhere: retail stores, offices, restaurants. Most places never called back. The ones that did offered minimum wage $7.50 an hour. It was humiliating. Finally, after 2 months of searching, I got a call from a small Chinese restaurant about 3 miles from my house. They needed someone to answer phones, take orders, and help manage the front of house. Can you start Monday? The owner, Mr. Wong, asked. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's $8 an hour, 40 hours a week. That okay? $8 an hour, $320 a week, about $1,300 a month. With Thomas's child support, that was $3,300 a month total. Enough to get by if I was careful. That's perfect, I said, trying to keep the desperation out of my voice. My first day at Wong's Garden was humbling. I'd never worked in a restaurant before. The pace was frantic. The phone rang constantly. Orders got mixed up. Customers complained. My feet ached from standing all day. My back hurt. By the time I got home that first night, I could barely walk. Emily was home from college for spring break. She took one look at me and her face crumpled. Mom, you look exhausted. I'm fine, honey. Just a long day. You shouldn't have to do this. It's not fair. Dad should. Your father is doing what the law requires. The rest is up to me, and I can handle it. But that night, after Emily went to bed, I sat in the bathroom and cried. My hands were red and raw from washing dishes. My feet had blisters. My whole body ached. What had my life become? Then, about 3 months after I started working at the restaurant, I heard something that changed everything. It was a Saturday afternoon. The lunch rush had just ended. I was wiping down tables when two women came in and sat in a booth near the window. They didn't notice me. I was just the help, invisible. But I noticed them because one of them was young, beautiful, with long, straight dark hair, and she was very, very pregnant. Miranda. My heart started pounding. I moved closer, pretending to clean a nearby table, straining to hear their conversation. I'm so tired of this, Miranda was saying to her friend. Thomas keeps promising we'll get married as soon as the divorce is final. But it's been months now and nothing. Men always do that, her friend replied. They promise everything when they want you, then drag their feet when it's time to actually commit. It's not just that. Miranda's voice dropped lower. He's different now. He's not the same guy I fell in love with. He's stressed all the time. He barely has any money. He told me he had this great job, but I think he lied. We're living in this tiny apartment, and he can barely pay the bills. What about his ex-wife? Isn't he paying child support? Yeah, and he complains about it constantly. $2,000 a month. Plus he had to give her $500,000 in the settlement. He says he's broke. We can barely afford baby stuff. I almost laughed. Thomas was broke? The man who'd left me for a younger woman? For passion and excitement, and a fresh start, he was broke and miserable? But Miranda wasn't finished. And honestly, she lowered her voice even more. I'm not sure I even want to be with him anymore. He's nothing like I thought he'd be. He's not romantic. He doesn't take me out. All he does is work and complain about money. Sometimes I think I made a huge mistake. Her friend patted her hand sympathetically. What are you going to do? I don't know. Have the baby, I guess. Then figure it out from there. But marriage? I'm not so sure anymore. They paid their bill and left. I stood there, cloth in hand, processing what I'd just heard. Thomas's new life wasn't the paradise he'd imagined. He wasn't happy. He was struggling. He was broke. And the woman he'd destroyed our family for, she was already having second thoughts. I wish I could say I felt sorry for him, but I didn't. Not even a little bit. That night, I went home and looked at my life with new eyes. Yes, I was working in a restaurant for $8 an hour. Yes, my body ached and I was tired all the time. But I had my house. I had my children. I had my dignity. Thomas had nothing. He'd thrown away everything for a fantasy, and now he was living with the consequences. For the first time since the divorce, I smiled. A real, genuine smile. 2 years passed. 2 years of working at Wong's garden. 2 years of watching my hands grow calloused and my feet grow strong. 2 years of learning that I was tougher than I'd ever given myself credit for. Mr. Wong was a good man. Patient. Kind. He taught me everything about running a restaurant. How to manage inventory. How to deal with difficult customers. How to make authentic Chinese dishes that made people come back again and again. Patricia, he said to me one day in the spring of 1998, you have talent, real talent. You should think about opening your own place someday. I laughed. Mr. Wong, I'm 46 years old. I'm not opening any restaurants. Why not? You're young. You're smart. You work harder than anyone I know. His words stayed with me. Could I really do it? Open my own restaurant? That summer, Daniel graduated from high school. He'd been accepted to the University of Illinois with a partial scholarship. Emily was about to start her senior year at Northwestern. My babies were grown. At Daniel's graduation party, held in our backyard with paper lanterns and homemade food, I looked around at the life I'd built. Friends from the neighborhood, people from the restaurant, Emily and Daniel, healthy and happy despite everything they'd been through. Thomas wasn't there. He hadn't been invited. I'd heard through the grapevine that he and Miranda had gotten married right after her baby was born. A boy. They'd named him Chase. I wondered sometimes if Thomas was happy, if he'd gotten what he wanted. But mostly, I didn't think about him at all anymore. He was like a dream I'd once had, distant and fading. That fall, Mr. Wong made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Patricia, I'm getting old. My wife wants to move back to Taiwan to be near our grandchildren. I want to sell the restaurant, and I want to sell it to you. My heart jumped. Mr. Wong, I can't afford. I'm not asking market price. I'm giving you a fair price, $100,000. You can get a small business loan for that, and I'll stay on for 6 months to help you transition. $100,000? I had about $200,000 left from my divorce settlement. I'd been careful, saved every penny I could. But taking that much money, risking it all on a restaurant. Can I think about it? Take your time, but not too much time. My wife is very eager to leave. He smiled. That night, I called Emily and Daniel. Both of them were away at school, but we had a three-way phone call. Mom, you should do it, Emily said immediately. You're amazing at this. Everyone says so. But what if I fail? What if I lose everything? Mom, Daniel said quietly, you've already lost everything once, and you survived. You rebuilt. You can do it again if you have to. But I don't think you will. I think you're going to succeed. My children. When had they become so wise, so strong? Okay, I said. I'll do it. 3 months later, I owned Wong's Garden. Well, I owned Patricia's Kitchen. That's what I renamed it. A fresh start. A new beginning. The first year was brutal. I worked 16-hour days. I did everything: cooking, cleaning, managing, ordering supplies. There were times I wanted to quit. Times I wondered if I'd made a terrible mistake. But slowly, gradually, the restaurant started to thrive. Word spread about the food, about the warm atmosphere, about the woman who'd started over at 46 and made something beautiful. By 1999, I was making more money than I'd ever imagined. Enough to help Emily and Daniel with school. Enough to fix up the house. Enough to finally feel secure. One evening in the fall of 1999, a man came into the restaurant. He was around 50, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He ordered the cashew chicken and sat reading a book while he ate. He came back the next week, and the next, always alone, always polite, always leaving a generous tip. After about a month, as I was refilling his water, he looked up at me. This might be forward of me, he said, but would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Somewhere other than here, I mean. I was so surprised I almost dropped the water pitcher. I'm Robert, he continued. Robert Harrison. I'm a high school teacher. I've been divorced for 5 years, and I think you're remarkable. I hadn't dated anyone since Thomas. Hadn't even thought about it. But there was something about Robert's eyes. Something kind and genuine. I'm Patricia. I said, even though he already knew. And yes, I'd like that. Our first date was simple: dinner at an Italian restaurant, then a walk along the Chicago River. Robert was easy to talk to. He listened when I spoke. He laughed at my jokes. He didn't try to impress me or rush anything. He was, in every way, the opposite of Thomas. We dated for a year, slow and steady. He met Emily and Daniel, who both approved. He came to the restaurant sometimes just to sit at the counter and watch me work, a proud smile on his face. In the fall of 2000, Robert proposed. Nothing fancy, just the two of us in my living room after dinner. Patricia, I know we're not kids. I know we both have pasts and scars. But I love you. I love your strength and your kindness and your terrible jokes. Will you marry me? I said yes. We got married that winter. A small ceremony at a local church with Emily and Daniel and a handful of close friends. I was 49 years old. Robert was 52. We were both starting over, both building something new. And it was beautiful. Robert and I were happy, really happy. We traveled. We laughed. We built a life together that was quiet and peaceful, and everything my first marriage hadn't been. Emily got married in 2003. A beautiful wedding. She married a lawyer named Michael, a good man who treated her like a queen. They gave me two grandchildren, Sophie and Jack. Daniel got married in 2007 to a teacher named Lisa. They had twins Emma and Noah. The restaurant continued to thrive. By 2010, I had enough money to retire if I wanted to. But I didn't want to. I loved the work. I loved the people. It gave me purpose. I heard about Thomas occasionally, through mutual acquaintances, through the grapevine. The news was never good. His marriage to Miranda had lasted 3 years. She'd left him when Chase was 2, taking the boy with her. Thomas had to pay child support. Ironic, wasn't it? The man who'd resented supporting his own children was now supporting the child of his failed affair. He'd lost his job at the construction company, something about poor performance and too many absences. He'd bounced around after that. Sales jobs, temp work, nothing stable. I didn't feel sorry for him, but I didn't feel vindicated either. Just nothing. Then, in 2018, I got a phone call that changed everything. It was from a hospital. Thomas's mother had listed me as his emergency contact years ago and never updated it. Mrs. Williams, this is Mercy Hospital. Thomas Williams has been admitted. He's had a severe stroke. He's asking for you. My first instinct was to hang up. Why should I care? He destroyed our family. He'd chosen his path. But then I thought about Emily and Daniel, about the man Thomas had been before Miranda, about the 20 years we'd shared. I'll be there in an hour, I said. The hospital room was sterile and cold. Thomas lay in the bed, half his face drooping from the stroke. He looked old, so much older than 67 should look. When he saw me, tears started running down his face. Patricia, he slurred. The stroke had affected his speech. I sat down in the chair next to his bed. I didn't hold his hand. I just sat. The doctor says you'll need full-time care, rehabilitation, someone to help you. He nodded, more tears falling. Your mother is too old to help. Miranda won't return calls. Chase is grown and wants nothing to do with you. Emily and Daniel. I paused. They said they'd visit, but they can't take care of you. I'm sorry, he managed to say. So, sorry. I looked at this broken man, this stranger who used to be my husband, and I made a decision. I'm going to help you, I said. Not because you deserve it, not because I forgive you, but because someone needs to, and I'm the only one who will. I arranged for Thomas to go to a good nursing home. Not the best, he couldn't afford that, but a decent one. I used some of my own money to cover what his Medicare didn't. I visited him once a week. Sometimes Emily or Daniel came with me. We'd sit with him for an hour. Make sure he was being cared for properly. Make sure he had what he needed. Thomas cried almost every visit. "Thank you," he'd say. "I don't deserve this." "No," I'd agree. "You don't." But I kept coming anyway. One day, about 2 years into his stay at the nursing home, Thomas had a lucid moment. His speech was better that day. "Patricia," he said clearly, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." "Miranda left me because I was miserable. I was angry all the time. Resentful. I resented the child support I owed you. I resented that you got the house. I resented that my life hadn't turned out like I'd imagined." He paused, struggling to continue. "But the truth is, I destroyed my own life. I had everything. A wife who loved me, 2 beautiful children, a good home, and I threw it all away for what? For excitement? For feeling young again? I look at you now," he continued. "You remarried. You're successful. You're happy. You have grandchildren who adore you. You have everything I wanted, and you built it all without me. You didn't need me. You never did." I sat there letting his words sink in. "No," I said finally, "I didn't need you. But I loved you once. And that meant something, even if it doesn't anymore." Thomas died in March of 2020. Pneumonia, complicated by his stroke. The nursing home called me. I was still listed as his contact. The funeral was small. Me, Robert, Emily, Daniel, and their families. Thomas's mother had passed away 2 years earlier. Miranda didn't come. Chase didn't come. We buried him on a gray Thursday morning. The priest said kind words about redemption and forgiveness. Emily cried. Daniel stood stone-faced. Robert held my hand. I didn't cry. I'd done my crying for Thomas 25 years ago, when he'd walked out our door. This wasn't my husband in that coffin. My husband had died a long time ago. After the funeral, we all went back to my house, the same house I'd lived in since 1995. The house Thomas had given me in the divorce. The house I'd raised our children in. We sat around the kitchen table, drinking coffee, remembering. Dad made a lot of mistakes, Emily said quietly, but he was still our dad. He was, Daniel agreed. And Mom, thank you for taking care of him at the end. You didn't have to do that. I know, I said, but it was the right thing to do. Robert squeezed my hand under the table. My second husband, my real partner, the man who'd shown me what love could be when it was healthy and mutual and kind. That night, after everyone had gone home, I stood in my kitchen, the kitchen where I'd learned I'd been betrayed, where I'd cried so many tears, where I'd rebuilt my life from nothing. And I realized something. Thomas's betrayal had been the worst thing that ever happened to me. But it had also been the best thing. It had forced me to become strong, to discover skills I never knew I had, to build a life I was proud of. If he hadn't left, I'd have stayed in that comfortable, loveless marriage forever. I'd never have opened my restaurant, never have met Robert, never have learned that I was capable of so much more than I'd believed. I'm 71 now. Robert is 74. We're both retired. We spend our days with our grandchildren, traveling, enjoying the life we've built together. Sometimes I think about that 44-year-old woman who got her heart broken in 1995. How scared she was. How lost. How certain that her life was over. I wish I could tell her it's not over. It's just beginning. The best is yet to come. I don't hate Thomas anymore. I don't love him either. He's just a chapter in my story. An important chapter, yes. The chapter where everything fell apart, but also the chapter where I learned I could put it all back together again. Better than before. Stronger than before. If you're listening to this and you're going through something similar, if you've been betrayed, if your world has crumbled, if you think you can't survive this, please hear me. You can. You will. It won't be easy. There will be days when you want to give up, days when you can't see how you'll make it through, but you will make it through. And on the other side, there's a life waiting for you, a life you built with your own two hands, a life that belongs completely to you. That's the sweetest revenge of all. Not hurting the person who hurt you, but becoming so happy, so successful, so whole, that they become irrelevant. My name is Patricia Williams. I'm 71 years old, and this is my story. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please consider subscribing to hear more stories like this, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. We all have the strength to survive our darkest moments. Sometimes we just need to be reminded of that. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember it's never too late to start over.